What's going on, YouTube? This is your Melanated Warrior, Heavyweight Heinous, and this is another installment of Facts Over Feelings. Leave your feelings at the door so we can get to the facts. And I should say that slower because I'm telling you, a lot of y'all who be leaving comments in the comment sections, you have no facts, man. You know, of course, we ain't talking about the FOF squad. Y'all be on point. And I'm not just saying that because I got, not showing a bias. If you make a credible comment and if it's noteworthy, of course, it'll be highlighted. I'll respond to it. But when you just coming with emotions and, we're all the same, you're being divisive, help humanity to come together. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Look, first of all, you got to understand, nature has already divided you. Not in a bad sense, because, see, when it comes to the Blanco, his reasoning is anything that is different is bad. Or he has to look at it in terms of, is it better or worse? He always has to compare it. It can never just exist in its own, in its, and have its own beauty and be beautiful for being different. It has to be compared and rationalized as something that is better or worse. That's Western thinking. That's not nature. Beauty is in diversity. You have to appreciate your differences. And why walk around ignorant of yourself just to appease somebody's idea of wanting to be the same? That's ridiculous. Anyway, let's go into it because see, we got to get deeper, man. We got to get deeper. Remember when we talked just to place a lot more emphasis on how far deep down the rabbit hole we are, and also how deep we are into observing their rituals and participating. We have to go back to taking a look at the name Georgios, which we know was what? A nickname for Zeus. And we know George and Georgios is the same, means farmer. Okay, we've already determined that. This is facts, right? So when we take a look at a lot of the notable occurrences or notable historical events, especially within recent history or recent memory, that name pops up. If you take a look at when a lot of the nonprofit organizations just sprang forth in these social movements on social media, especially if we take Trayvon Martin, for instance. Who killed Trayvon Martin? Now, regardless if these individuals' names were given to them, we know that they were given at birth. We know a lot of people take pride in the names that they give their children. They look at the meaning and all of that. So even if they were knowledgeable about it or not, this play into the ritual is happening, regardless if they're conscious about it or not. So we know that the guy who killed Trayvon Martin was who? George Zimmerman. We also know that during 9/11, which kicked off the 21st century with a bang, who was the president then? George Bush. Okay? And even though these Blancos know that we as a community don't stand behind Black Lives Matter, what do? Remember, because I told you that was the importance of looking at that video, why white America loves to speak through coons, because they want to tell you how they feel. It has no basis in fact, just pure emotion. They don't like you. They looking for any excuse. Remember slavery, they didn't even have an excuse. So now if you give them any excuse, they're going to run with it. Oh, your Black Lives Matter. Even though allegedly who funded that organization or put a lot of money behind it to get it to the place where it is now was George Soros, allegedly. Now, what happened in 2020, which was huge? Focusing in or honing in on police brutality and beginning to highlight the discrepancies between how we are treated and others are treated in this society, right? That was the death of who? George Floyd. Now, and if you notice too as well, a couple months ago, something happened, I believe it was a month or two ago, but in Toledo, Ohio, where there was a George Floyd mural, lightning struck it. And you had all these Blancos, oh, see, that was God. God was showing how he didn't approve of this nefarious organization you call Black Lives Matter and what you're doing. See, that's God coming down because they know that they celebrate the god Zeus. What's the god associated with lightning? And then to have the name George also as Zeus. But see, these Blancos, they love they love to be ignorant of their culture. They don't want to come face to face with who they're really serving. This is Babylon. Remember, we've already detailed that, those who celebrated the moon god, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Akkadians, okay? And the Sumerians. changed the name up here and there, but it was the moon god that they celebrated and worship. And so many people, you got some people talking about, oh yeah, the moon, that's a celestial being. That's I never said that this energy, this 3D experience, these three-dimensional beings, each one having a dimension, and the sun being the most advanced, right? But from what we can see, that creates ours, right? We see the sun, we see the earth, we live on, it's the sun, the earth, and the moon. These three dimensions that come together to form our reality. All right, and we know that there's many more dimensions, but we're just saying for what we can, what we're able to experience, for at the level we're at now. All right, and so it's the balance of those energies which creates this existence. Any imbalance is what creates this instability. Just like if you use the examples of male and female, sex-wise, we both contain estrogen and testosterone. One just contains more than the other. It's the ratio, which then accounts for the differences you see. That's the point. So you got some of these people sitting up here talking about, oh, well, yeah, you're being divisive. How? The fact of the matter is that you have to understand something about the transhumanism agenda. Anytime that a paradigm is a foundation on which knowledge rests. If I sit up here and say we're all the same, notice humans are the only ones who do that. But everything else in nature, we don't do that. We even have an idiomatic expression that says, oh, well, you're comparing apples to oranges. Well, they're both fruit, ain't they? It's all fruit. It's all the same. Just like, an individual may say, you take a dog and a wolf. The dog comes from the wolf. But I bet your ass can't take a slab of meat, go out in nature, or go out, in Yellowstone Park and lure some wolves to you and say, oh yeah, I got a leash, I'll come take you home. They're not domestic. You can do that with a stray dog probably. Why? Because of the behavior. They've been domesticated or otherwise engineered, because it is about the behavior. It don't matter that the dog and the wolf both got 4 legs, they got fur, and they got teeth. Their behavior is different. One is more tuned in or more aligned with its instincts than the other one who has had more time to cultivate the cosmic experience. So it is the behavior, these chemicals inside us, which you can't see, account for the way that we behave. And see, what's also slick is if you notice, they always talk about solar engineering, geoengineering. Hell, they've even compounded the term solar geoengineering. But yet, remember that article that I exposed to you about with NASA, and it talked about how the moon had a wobble, and then in accordance with, or also with the carbon emissions and global warming with the sun heating the earth up, that this is what's causing all the flooding. But they don't ever talk about lunar engineering. You see what I'm saying? So we're going off into, what do we talk about? Another term for Jupiter, for Zeus, is Jupiter. Okay? And they name these planets. Now, what you have to understand is, like we said, you're participating in these rituals. We're going to get into the reason why Patriots are not, because this is all tying in. You're participating in these rituals with the Olympics and all of that different stuff, because if you notice the emblem of the Olympic Games, it's the 5 rings. Jupiter just so happens to be the 5th planet from the sun. And it's also another name for Zeus. And Jupiter's biggest moon is Ganymede. Ganymede is significant because it's bigger than Earth. Now, and this is what's so crazy. You can fit about 1,300 Earths inside of Jupiter. Now, if you're an individual who believes in the Bible and submit to that logic and that creation process, remember, God created the Earth in 6 days, had to rest on the 7th. So you telling me that God had to rest on the 7th day from creating the earth? Yet y'all say, those who have now merged in secular philosophy and science with religion. They say, oh well, God created the universe. He created all the planets. Well, okay, if he did, then he should have wrote about it, because if it took him 6 days to create the earth and he rested on the 7th, how long do you think it would have took him to create Jupiter? And it's 1,300 Earths. And he also, in Jupiter, has 79 moons, 53 of which they've already named, but they haven't named the rest of them. They're all waiting on names. And then the biggest moon is Ganymede, which just so happens to be the biggest moon in the entire solar system, as they say. And it's bigger than Earth. So that Jupiter's Earth is bigger than the moon. I mean, it's bigger than Earth. Its moon is bigger than the Earth, and the planet is the size of 1,300 Earths. How long do you think it would have took God to create Jupiter and Saturn? And yet he didn't write about it. He didn't want any acknowledgement for it. He took all that time to create Earth. See, it's incumbent upon them. They lie so much, they will defend the lie with their lives. This is not a debate about the dome versus the Earth spinning along. Now, mind you, what's also so incredible is when he goes out there with his telescopes and all that different stuff or whatever, and he takes these pictures of these planets, they all just seem to be photogenic. They all stand still for him. Now, Jupiter has 79 moons. One moon just happens to be bigger than Earth, and yet you never see him when he takes a picture of Jupiter. There's nothing in the way. 79 moons, nothing in the way of his photo. See, this is what they do. They want you to embrace life. No logic whatsoever. Just pure emotion. It's on him to... Remember, he's the one who's been lying to you. Not the other way around. And with that largest moon, Ganymede, that was a tale of when Zeus had kidnapped Ganymede, a little boy, abducted him, had sex with him and everything, and made him a cupbearer, took him to Mount Olympus and made him the cupbearer for the gods, which means they shared him too as well. And mind you, this is a god that has sex with animals and who married his sister, Hera. Animals, young boys, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And so this is why I'm trying to get you to understand you're participating in the ritual when it comes to these games. And yet this shows you that the symbolism, how powerful it is. So just not the act of kidnapping, having sex with children is a ritual. Even the art of the abduction is a ritual. You see what I'm saying? And so even when you go, you have, I think it's called a parabolic mirror, but it's a mirror that's concave, looks almost like a satellite. It's what lights the torch for the Olympic Games. They use the sun to light the torch. And then that torch is given to the first runner by a high priest. Why do they got you? The whole world participates in this ritual. And then they claim, these Blancos claim to be Christians. And so this is why I say all the time, they know for a fact, we know that this is modern day Babylon. If they reading the same Bible that they giving to you, they've already admitted that this is modern day Babylon. So why are they so tied to God and country? Because they know that they praise the god Zeus. That's why they have no problem making the angels white. That's why they have no problem making God white. Because they know that the God that they praise is Zeus. See, that's why I say all the time, man, we got to be careful of these things. Look, and we think that because this is Babylon, something's new. Like I told you before, name one decade. If you buy into the slavery narrative, name one decade that was, after slavery that was good for us. Because everybody, they saying make America great again. We saying when was America ever great? I don't care which argument you choose. I'm just trying to name a decade that was good for anybody on this planet after they took over. Even Blancos, because they went through, being terrorized themselves because their food and their medicine is complete garbage. Complete garbage. They've been a danger to themselves, to everyone else, and to the entire planet and other species, obviously. So if you take the 1920s, was it good then? The 1930s, it was a depression for them. The 1940s, world wars, 50s, 60s, you was getting your ass beat, clobbed over the head, and dogs sicked on you. 70s, 80s, the crack epidemic. The 90s, the 2000s maybe. The towers fell. 2010, 2020, right up to now. When? I'm asking you when. Even if you take into consideration that even if it was going good for you at some point in time, you have to really ignore what's going on with everybody else just to buy into the illusion. Because if you took into consideration what everybody else was going through, it would be the last days for forever. Ever since they took power, it was the last days. Because the last days is characterized by all of this evil. Okay, so even if you were doing good, what was going on in Africa? What was going on in Central America? What was going on in Asia? Everywhere he put his footprint, there was devastation. Even if it wasn't nothing going on with humans, what's going on in the oceans? What's going on with other species? They say over 300 species go extinct every day. Everywhere he goes, everywhere she goes, because she's the one who births him into existence. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing new about what they do. See, I'm finna show you some pictures. We've already done this before, but we got to go over it because a lot of y'all think that this stuff is new. And we always said it all the time. Oh, things went from bad to worse. That's only because you're taking a look at it from your perspective. Now that things are going bad for America, now y'all want to sit up here and act like things have just gotten worse. They've been that way for a lot of people. But like I said, in order for you to buy into this idea from bad to worse, you have to buy into this illusion that you have been doing good. It's just now getting bad. All right? So we're going to show you some photos right quick. And we're not even going to have you do no guesswork. We showed these photos before because we want black holes to be associated with their history because they're the ones who don't know nothing about their history. That's Franklin Delano Roosevelt in a dress. This is before television. They used to dress their little boys up in dresses all the way up until 6 years old. This is his father with Franklin Delano Roosevelt on his shoulder. Okay? Picture of his father again with Franklin Delano Roosevelt in the dress. Okay? On and on. You see what I'm saying? Matter of fact, what's so interesting, remember when we talked about the Sports Illustrated article where they talk about the first transgender on that cover. Now, mind you, what's so interesting about that is this is once again a magazine that is intended for heterosexual men. Is this the first time? No. Because if you go to 1981, there was a transgender woman who starred in the film, the James Bond film, for Your Eyes Only, I believe the name of the film was. And she also posed in Playboy in 1981, butt naked. Never told you it was a transgender. She got outed by a British tabloid. Okay? And I'm going to let you see what she said. You can just look her up. Her name was Caroline Cassie. Caroline Cassie. Okay? Now we finna see what she said from her own mouth. And you can just look up this stuff, just research the name and all of this will pop up. She said, when Playboy republished her spread in 2015, she told the magazine that doing the shoot had a tremendous impact on trans visibility. Now people, she said, this is a quote. Playboy's readership is mostly male and heterosexual. So it allowed me to get out there and prove that people like myself can be sexy and attractive. Prove to who? You didn't tell us that you were, and then we said, oh, that's a transgender, that's sexy. I hope that's what men want to do. You didn't never told nobody. You did the spread, under the guise that you were a female. It had men, and look what men were doing. Not even knowing. So, this is what she said about Hugh Hefner. For Cassie, at least, he was a hero. When she was introduced to him at the mansion, she recalled, this is a quote, he looked into my eyes and I immediately knew he felt my story, she recalled. He felt my cause. See what I'm saying? You thought all of them females that Hugh Hefner was running around with were females? See, he knew this before he put her on, in the magazine. And it is this honesty that we're talking about. It's the behavior like we talked about. Like I said before, you just can't go get a wolf. You know that the dog comes from the wolf. You just can't go grab a wolf out of nature and domesticate it. It's the behavior, even though it looks the same. It's like, oh, we all human, but our behaviors are different. Our behaviors are different. That's what accounts for it. And those are big differences. You see what I'm saying? And so when we go, like we said, the symbolism, and you look at, we go to Art Store, ARTSTOR, April 2nd, 2015. The title of it is Hopping Through Cultures, The Rabbit in Art. Okay? And it says, Easter is around the corner, and with it comes the inevitable barrage of images of the Easter bunny. The strange thing is that the only mentions of rabbits in the Bible are prohibitions against eating them in the Old Testament. So what gives? The underlying idea is that rabbits are connected to the idea of rebirth. Not only do they reproduce prodigiously, at one time they were believed to reproduce asexually. That's why the rabbit was chosen for Playboy. See, I'm telling y'all, all these many examples, they do not praise your God, the Most High. Their God is Zeus, and there is no such thing as a patriot being a Christian. Because we all know that their science and religion is mixed, and we've already determined that there is no such thing as a Blanco scientist. So what you have is an individual or energy, not all of them, but their energy that is diametrically opposed to the energy that is dependent more so on the sun than the moon, solar beings. And I've already proved to you this without a shadow of a doubt. So next time you come on the channel, remember to separate facts from feelings. FOF Squad.